in 2017, I was diagnosed with anticipatory anxiety. I didn't know what it was. It just kind of came out of nowhere, and it's really not a great feeling. So I've also had to, since then, learn how to deal with and respond to my anxiety when I have attacks, when I have moments of unease, and that also led to some forms of mild depression for me as well.
I made it through the rough time. I made it through the tough time. I made it through the bad time. So now I gotta get mine. Gotta weather the storm. Gotta get mine. Gotta weather the storm. I gotta get mine. Gotta weather the storm. Okay. One day we gon' get on. Talk to 'em. You ain't got a choice.
Welcome to Bailey Buck Unplugged, where we talk about sports, entertainment, and mental health in support of the Kennedy Kids Foundation. If you're struggling with mental health, we encourage you to speak up and get help. A great place to start is 988. That's the free crisis prevention lifeline. Or you can check out the resources tab at kennedykids.org. If you are in an absolute emergency, please dial 911. Either way, we want you to know that you are not alone and that you don't have to struggle, and speak up, get help. There are resources available to you, and we are here to support you. If you're new around here, I want to introduce you to our host. I am Misty Buck. I am an author and a mental health and performance coach. And my co-hosts are Robert Bailey. He is the president of Rosenhaus Sports, the president of Kennedy Kids Foundation. He's a two-time Super Bowl champion, two-time college national champion. He's an NFL record holder, and he's an ESPY winner. And we are also joined by Bailey Brooks Mashburn. She is a celebrity wedding and event planner, a former NFL cheerleader, and the executive director of the Kennedy Kids Foundation.
And welcome to another edition of Bailey and Buck Unplugged. We have a super special guest for you guys. I'm actually a little nervous because this is like a real podcasting professional, okay? I mean, he is Fred Taylor, co-host of The Pivot. And that's actually an Emmy-nominated podcast. So Robert and I are going to do our best here in the podcasting world. But you also might know Fred Taylor. He was an NFL player, of course, for 13 years. He played with the Jaguars. He played with the Patriots. And he has done so much since then to move the conversation forward on so many issues, just like mental health, like what we're going to talk about today. And I do want to quickly mention, we just got an inside tip. So dropping in May, he has Pivot Performance Energy, which we want to hear all about this. Pivot Performance Energy. Like, I got to hear all about this, which we will. So we're going to get into all of this today and more. So Fred, welcome to the show.
I appreciate you guys having me on, and it's no pressure. On the outside, I might look like a podcasting pro, but I'm still a rookie at heart. I just love the job. I love the opportunity to be able to utilize a platform and a space where we've created, for our guests as a safe space where we have opportunities to just, meet the guests, talk to them about, or actually let them talk about everything that's going on in their lives. And I think what I've learned, though, is to be able to ask questions based on what I think the audience would like to hear or know about our guests. Even if I've done my research and I know the answers, I try to lay it up so that they can share their own stories in their own words, so that the viewer who might be going through something on their own, they can have something that's a lot more relatable to them outside of the celebrity of whoever the guest is. So, not a podcast pro, but I do enjoy it a lot. And I do enjoy those words. Thank you.
And Fred, you're a little modest.
Fred, you're synonymous with the NFL and being one of the greats at the running back position. Did you ever think you would be introduced and they would say podcaster before NFL star? They would actually highlight that you're a celebrity podcast of the Emmy Award-winning show, The Pivot, before they say NFL star running back. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, you know what? I've learned to accept it. Obviously, I retired in 2012.
Right.
So we're saying 13 years ago, just
it's still
coming
not a
up here soon.
long time ago. People should should know who you are. You know what I mean?
Well,
They
yeah,
should know
but
your
you know what?
history, your background.
The thing I've learned, Robert, is what we do is we walk around every day with this little device in our
Right.
hand. And,
Right.
you know, more people with the way that the NFL went in terms of marketing their players, we're under that helmet 24/7. And we're not as marketable as, say, you know, the NBA or baseball or what have you, who plays a ton of games on top of not having on a helmet. So I get it. You know, I understand
Right.
it. I'm in everyone's pocket at any given moment. So when I'm going through the airport or in the grocery store, they respond, "This is that guy from the podcast.
Yeah.
This is the guy from YouTube." They don't say. And at first, I was like,
Yeah.
"Well, I retired
Like,
15th all
wait.
time and
Yeah.
rushing in the NFL, and that wasn't easy by any sense of the word." But
Right.
I get it. But that also means we're doing something right.
Right.
We're doing something good. We're doing something right, and I accept it.
Yeah, you guys have such an impactful show. I wanted to. We always like to ask people about the most like a moment in their career in their life when they realize the importance of mental health. But coupled with that, I'm sort of wondering on your podcast how that has shaped your view of mental health, because you've had guests like Drew Robinson who has like this incredible story. And so I'm wondering how those stories and those interviews that you've done, those conversations that you were just talking about, how that has shaped your view of mental health and wellness.
Well, it's always coming up. You don't. We didn't hear about mental health as much some years ago as much as we hear about it now. It seems that the more and more you talk about it, the more and more people are in acceptance with being vulnerable and putting it out in the forefront so they can seek help and try and understand mental health in itself. In 2017, I was diagnosed with anticipatory anxiety. I didn't know what it was. It just kind of came out of nowhere. And it's really not a great feeling. So I've also had to, since then, learn how to deal with and respond to my anxiety when I have attacks, when I have moments of unease, and that also led to some forms of mild depression for me as well, because I never thought it would happen to me. I was always somewhat, on the fence, wondering if it would happen. I never knew when it would happen. Let me say that. I wondered if it would happen because, for those years following the CTE development, and they started mentioning it more in players, they're saying, look, this is what's supposed to happen to you guys at some point in your life, possibly for some players. So you walk away from the game afraid, which is what happened to me. And, 5 years after I retired, here I am with anxiety. And now things really start to take shape. I'm already on the fence about wondering if this is going to happen to me. And then when the anxiety comes out of nowhere, I'm like, whoa, maybe this is starting to, progress. But again, I had some pretty good doctors, therapists, all that stuff. I sort of found my way into holistic medicine, holistic healing and wellness, fitness. I had to get back into my fitness. And even just talking about it, being able to share it takes the weight off your shoulders. And as you were talking about on our show, we've had guests that we've shared these conversations with, even ourselves, just being able to be transparent, be vulnerable about it. It really makes a difference. And how you approach therapy for me. And I just want to continue to get the message out there that it's okay, that, dealing with mental health, whatever the issues are, that it's okay. And therapy works. I'm a, advocate for it. I believe in it. I do it. And I have my own other ways of, dealing with my anxiety that I don't ever mind sharing. For example, eating sour candy, which is one of the oddest things. But when I feel anxiety attack, come on, I eat one of those sour heads candy, and it forces me to kind of go to the sourness of the candy, and I kind of lose thought of,
Yeah.
the anxiety that's trying to press me.
Yeah. But that actually makes a lot of sense because have you heard of the 5 4 3 2 1 method?
Yes.
Okay, so it's like that. So it's really grounding in your senses when you're feeling anxiety, right? Like just kind of using the body to help you with everything that's going on up here and in your nervous system, right? So
Exactly.
I can tell you, man, that's for mental health, we always talk about awareness, 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 right? There's a lot of people go through some of the things that you mentioned in terms of anxiety or depression, all these different things that happen under the umbrella of mental health. And a lot of them go through it alone and in a dark room, and they keep it to themselves. I want to just, applaud you for being so raw and open about your personal life. As a football player, people look at us as superheroes, or tough guys, and the fact that they can look at you and then hear something that's human and real, and what you've gone through, it certainly it helps. It helps with our mission at our foundation and other foundations out there, like the Kennedy Kids Foundation. It helps with our mission in pushing the awareness, right? And I just want to applaud you just for coming out and saying that. That helps. You don't know who that's going to help. To running into the next question, with your anxiety, can you talk a little bit about some of the symptoms that you had, like the specific symptoms that you had that maybe someone else is out there is having and doesn't know that they're having anxiety attacks? They may think it's something else.
Yeah, that's a good question because I don't think everyone knows what anticipatory anxiety is.
Right.
Yeah, and for me, it's mainly just heavy breathing and just a panic attack, right? So it's sort of just kind of comes on, even in moments like this. I have to, sometimes try my best to, when I feel, heavy-headed or like there's a weight on me, or even if I feel moments of being overwhelmed, it can sort of, kind of strike up a panic attack, which is anxiety. And just my breathing changes. It becomes a bit more intense, a bit more rapid. Sometimes it feels like I can't breathe. And at those moments, I have to, slow it down, because you do become afraid, or at least when I first started to experience it, I became afraid. And just a quick story of, I was on a plane ride. It was May of 2017. I remember like it was yesterday. And I was just sitting there, and I started having difficulties in breathing. And I stood up, walked to the bathroom, like, what's going on? And then my mind kind of shifted towards, well, maybe something's going to happen on this plane. I'm trapped. I don't, how am I going to get to the hospital? And I started hearing my heart seemed like it was beating out of my chest. And, I was really in a state of panic. And then when we landed, I was better. And then a few days later, it happened. And then I ended up going over to my doctor. He diagnosed me with anticipatory anxiety. He was like, you're thinking, like you're overthinking. And that's also part of it. You can think these things and create these thoughts. That's why you have to try to figure out these different strategies and techniques to use to get out of your head. Because as long as you sit there, it's going to exacerbate, the anxiety or that feeling. So again, it starts with my breathing. I can kind of, feel my breath sort of kind of change, and it gets heavier, and my chest get a little tighter, and it can be scary, because you don't know. And as I continue to move up this ladder day to day and get older, you hear about the guys having heart attacks and all these different things. So I'm like, okay, what's going on? And it shifts back to my head. So but again, those different methods, the 5 4 3 2 1, just deep breathing, again, having those pieces of the sour head candy. And even I've discovered yoga, getting back into my massages. Also, just running. Running helps a lot. When I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'll go for a run, just to try to cool it down and just get back to zero.
Right.
And
Yeah,
back
like
to
reset
neutral.
the response
Reset.
system, right?
Yes, getting back
kind
to
of control
neutral.
those hormones that are being released. You need like an outlet,
Correct.
right?
Right. And it's helped me a ton tremendously. And and I know it's not easy. So I can imagine what others who suffer from various forms of anxiety and also in their within their depression, again, that's why being able to talk about it is always vital. Rob, you guys having your foundation and being able to, promote awareness around it, I think is also a beautiful thing, and creating a community and a safe space,
Yeah.
for everyone that's going through these difficult times, and also just allowing them an opportunity to be seen and then not being afraid to be heard. I think that's always pivotal, right? And trying to save people that you don't even know you're saving.
Right.
But again, we've got a lot of that. We mentioned Drew earlier. We had him on our show, and the feedback was so amazing about all of the people that talked about, man, you guys have saved my life. I was also contemplating suicide. I saw this
Wow.
episode. So it's so good to have, an impact on people's lives, people that you haven't even met yet. But when you get the messages back, it makes it all more exciting and fun and worth, continuing to push forward the right way, because there's so many different podcasts out there that you can easily go left and just make it about the clicks, make it about the views and the dramatics and all of that stuff. We are not going to lose sight of how important it is to have a positive platform in this society, which is bananas at times, and that can also increase mental health in young adults, right? Social media, all that other stuff. So that's why we want to give back and let people know that they're not alone.
Yeah, that's so important. I think sometimes we undervalue how important that is in creating those spaces. And I heard you talk in a clip about patience is really a key when we're working with somebody on mental health and wellness. And I feel like your show gives you an opportunity to provide that platform where you help people feel safe and you're patient as you speak with them and you allow them, as you said earlier, to kind of open up as you go, right? So I was wondering if you could kind of elaborate on that, as sort of for people that are listening that maybe want to support themselves or someone else with mental health, this concept of the importance of patience, the importance of that transparency, of safe spaces and all that.
Yeah, it really comes down to this simple thing. Just listen. Just take the time to listen to someone. Ask them if they're okay. And that's always it's cliche and like, oh, it's simple. It's more than that. But sometimes that's all it takes.
Right.
Are you okay?
Right.
Ryan Clark, one of our co-hosts, he would also go back. And I'm trying to remember exactly. He said, "You good? You okay? Do you need anything?"
Right.
And really, just setting up a conversation in that manner, in hopes that you can get a response, but then you just want to listen, have patience. There's nothing more important than listening to someone, especially when they're being vulnerable and transparent and open. You never want to seem rushed or passing judgment. All you got to do is sit there and listen. You don't even have to really respond much at the end of the conversation. Just let the other person on the other end know that I'm there for you, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes, to help you out of this situation.
Yeah, Fred, that makes a lot of sense, and it strikes it strikes a chord with me because, now I remember, I used to always just ask people, hey, how you doing? How things going? Now I go straight to it, Fred. I say, how's your mental health? I mean, I'm just, maybe meeting up with my buddy and say, yeah, what's up? Now, you do the
Right.
handshake, man,
Yeah.
how you doing? How's your, how's your mental health? I force them to give me an answer.
Correct.
And if the answer isn't, man, I'm great. If it's, I'm good, I know we need to talk about it.
Hmm.
Right. If they just say, yeah, no, I'm good. What do you mean you great?
Right.
I could be better, but right now, and then all of a sudden, the conversation opens up and they tell me what's happening in their life. Could be
Right.
something with the family, could be something with mom, wife, kids. And that's so important because now instead of him holding it in, he gets to share that with me. I then get to give him some
Right.
resources and some tools and and just something as simple as lending my ear.
Correct.
Right. And so just like you said, man, just listen and just ask straight out, like, how's your mental health? And that's just something that I think we need more to do more of.
I think it starts with us. It
Yeah.
starts with the various professional leagues and other celebrity spaces,
Yeah.
businesses, whether it's actors, actresses, sports, and music in the industry, whomever's and you don't have to be you don't have to be what did Barkley say? He back in the day, he said, "I'm not a I'm having a brain."
He's not a mentor. He said, I'm
Yeah,
not a mentor. Something to
I
that
just
effect.
can't think of him. We'll probably have to
Yeah.
cut that a bit, but
Yeah. He said, I'm something to the fact I'm not a mentor. I'm a pro basketball player. Something to that.
but you're actually, that's not. He didn't, speak he didn't tell a lie.
Right.
He was telling the truth and being honest, but he was not understanding the value or the power of his position in life. Right.
Right.
I believe that as pro athletes, we have a platform. We've created a platform. Everybody thinks we're tough. They think we don't go through things, but we go through as much. We have a lot of pressure on ourselves to be successful or
Right.
to not be part of the statistic of the 87% of guys that are divorced or filing for bankruptcy within 3 years of their careers ending. And that's a lot of pressure. And a lot of guys go through a lot of stuff and they kind of, go off and out of sight, out of mind. But you want to remind them, or they should remind themselves, that you're not in this alone. It's a real brotherhood. And I think if we can utilize ourselves to get that message out to the general public, they can recognize that and say, you know what, those guys are supposed to be tough. They're supposed to be this way. They're supposed to be hard, but they're just as gentle, and they go through stuff, and they have the same fight that I have. And I think us getting that message out, it allows for everybody else on the other end of it to be able to do the same and not be afraid to do the same. Because if we aren't afraid, why should anyone else be afraid? We're taught to, have this this toughness, right? And I don't think it should be that way.
Right. I agree. I think teams need to have, mental health therapists on staff, and I think they need to force guys to meet with them at least once a month, so the therapist could say, "Hey, how's your mental health?" And find those guys that they could start treating, start helping, because when their career is over and these guys go off and they were dealing with something while they were playing, and now they're not playing and they're dealing with it, and they don't have the resources every day, like going into the office, going to work every day. They don't have that anymore. And I think it's all about prevention, helping them, give them the tools, give them the resources, prevent suicides among the NFL players that, later on in their lives.
Right.
I think teams need to have a responsibility to provide that kind of resource right in the facility for guys to talk to them. I think all pro teams.
Yeah, and I agree on that, Rob. And again, I haven't been in the building to that extent. I do know the NFL Trust and the PA provide so many different resources and hotlines that are open. So those are always available. The bigger question or thought that comes to mind for me is the guys being able to cut through that callus that they've built up, to be able to go and seek the help. That's where it starts. Being able to release that machismo and that pride and say, you know what, I need help. And that's always the challenge, especially for a younger, more prideful guy who's supposed to be tough and not feel these things. You have to be able to tap into these emotions and being able to also release them. And going back to Charles Barkley really quick, he said, I am not a role model.
Right.
But we are all role models in some capacity. And I believe that we have a role to try to help and save others. And being able to talk about and communicate about it, I think it's also where it all starts.
Do you think as a role model, then you also have the responsibility to challenge your views on certain things? Because if you have that platform and you're looked at as a role model, do you feel like people have to be willing to do the work then to kind of unravel some of these things that you guys were just talking about, like those barriers that they have and belief systems that they have against getting help or machismo or whatever you want to call it?
I believe you speak to what you know. I like to speak to my experiences, and it makes it easy for me to want to give back. So, and again, when I mentioned in some capacity, we are all role models. Not to say you have to go out there and be Mr. Nice Guy. I'm not expecting anyone to do anything they don't want to do, but it's in my heart to want to give back. I've always wanted to give back. I'm compassionate in that sense, and very passionate in that sense as well. So I always speak from here when I speak about my experiences, and I hope that you can tap into my experiences and share them with yourself and others. And maybe if you are experiencing those things, you can find some sort of way to kind of help you cope and deal with it. Or maybe you can look at it and say, I look up to this guy and he's going through this. Man, I appreciate, him being able to be open, being able to talk about it. Now I feel better. Now I can start my journey. So in that sense, yes, I do want to live up to the role model in that capacity. But if you're going to think I'm going to babysit your children, I'm not going to do that, because I have my own children and they can be headaches at times. But I will love on them. I will take the time to talk to them, as I always do, in public settings, no matter what. And that's just who I am. That's the cloth I was cut from. So I take the time. I understand that it comes with the business. It comes with success. It comes with life. It comes with who God created me to be by the greatness and the blessings that He instilled in my grandmother. And that's how she taught me, and that's who I'll forever be. So yeah, that's why I utilize our platform to try to get these messages across, because I think it's important.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Misty.
No, I just was going to say, is there a specific moment? I mean, first of all, you shared so much in our show, our conversation about your own personal experience and kind of and what that anxiety felt like for you, which I think is going to help so many people, right? And we don't always get the chance to hear your side of it. So I want to thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And was there like a point on your podcast? I know we've talked about certain people, but is there like anything that stands out to you where you were like, oh, wow, that really changed my point of view on how I look at this piece of mental health?
Yeah, without a doubt. We started this podcast back in December of 2021. And we released our first episode in January of 2022. And we come from another podcast where things didn't quite work out there. And we had to pivot, which is where the name came from.
Oh, I never realized that.
Yep. And it was the big pivot, but the pivot. And what we ended up doing was we recognized we didn't want to just be the same just talking sport podcast that was full of dramatics and antics and all of that stuff. We sat down with Michael Beasley, formerly of the Heat and a few other teams, number 2 overall draft pick by way of Maryland. And, just sitting there with Beasley that night, we didn't know what to expect. We didn't have a clue what to expect. We just sat down to do our normal show.
Right.
But he came in the building with so much weight, on his heart and so much on his mind. He didn't know if he would ever play basketball again. And, in his heart, that's all he ever wanted to do was play basketball, even to this day. He just still wants to play basketball and prove to everybody that he is a basketball player. That's what he was born to do. And in that episode, it sort of changed our trajectory and how we were going to do shows. From that moment, we became somewhat of the Oprah sports of podcasts or podcasting. And we said our show would be full of positivity, of vulnerability, transparency. That's what we took back from that Beasley episode. And we saw a young man who was hurting.
Yeah.
Like we just recognized that he was dealing with a whole lot. And we left from that show, with a little brother, with someone that we wanted to always tap in with and look out for. And that people ask me, what's your favorite pivot shows? That's always going to be number 1 for me.
Wow.
Because
I remember that show.
It gave us not just an identity, but it really spoke volumes in that you never know what people are going through. Here he is, a guy who's a former number 2 overall pick, and you would think from the outside that he's doing okay. But his heart was so heavy and he was really going through something. And we hope that him being able to release that, allow him to release some of this weight, dealing with parents and friends and old friends and, having to decide who you're going to cut off and remove from your life. You want to kind of recoup nothing but positive energy and you want to release all of the toxic, bad stuff. And hopefully in that moment, we were able to help him. And we've tried to, since then, find a way to get him back on, always want to do a follow-up and a check-in. And man, that in that moment, it sort of gave me a different outlook on my line of questioning when I talk to our guests. I don't want to be surface. I do want to have fun. You want to be real. You want to, explore the subject, but you also want to tap into, like really, really tap into the core of their existence, their upbringing, because that can say a lot. A lot of this mental health awareness also has to do with digging deep into someone's upbringing and really, uncovering the different layers, being able to really get to know their journey. Because you can't just dismiss anyone by saying, you don't know what it's about. No, you don't know what it's about. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know that I grew up hearing gunshots or getting beatings or hearing my siblings or someone getting, you don't know these things. And all of this stuff is some form of trauma and post-traumatic stress that can trigger all of the various different, forms of mental health that can ultimately lead to the demise of an individual. Whether it's bullying, it's so much. Just being able to sit there and hear him kind of relive those moments that put him in this state of mind was you didn't see a dry eye on the set. And that really touched us. And it still touches me to this day. So again, I lead with being compassionate about the next human being, because we're all the same. At some point, in our well-being and our development, we're all the same, right? So
Yeah.
I care about people.
I remember that episode, by the way. I mean, that episode is still in my mind. And I remember one of the things I remember about that episode, Fred, was just the way he was sitting. He was sitting as though he had lost all of his energy. He had it.
He said it. He said, "I'm tired." He said, "I'm tired, man. I'm tired. I'm tired. I just need some good people in my life." The weight of all that negativity and the people just sucking life and energy out of me.
Right.
So I just need to be around some positivity and some good people, man. Right. So you hit it on the head. You called it out, yeah.
And there's a lot of Michael Beasleys around different sports, man.
Yes.
And that is the reason I said teams need to be more aware of who's in their locker rooms, what's going on with guys. You can see that even when he was playing and he was having some of the issues off the court, and you knew that something was going on with Michael Beasley. A lot of people thought it was, the Miami, stigma of South Beach.
Yeah.
Because that has been the blame for a lot of guys and teams that come in to play the Heat. Sometimes people say, "Oh, they were out the night before. The Miami Beach got them, and that's why they didn't play." But I remember that, and that was one of the most memorable shows, like you said, that you guys have had on. And I really I hope that Mike has gotten the help, and I hope you guys continue to stay connected with him.
Yeah, we've reached out. We've checked in. Sometimes you have to also check in and kind of press the issue without. It's the fine line. You don't want to become overwhelming. You don't want to become the problem or the pressure that they've been dealing with. So you also have to try to fine tune it and respect their space as well. But he knows that, we care about him, and that we're true to our words, that we will check in, that we would see how he's doing, and also be here for him if he needs us. So, the line of communication is there. But again, the response hasn't been as great as we like, but we do understand, that he still has his life to live and so much going on. But our doors are always open. We're a call away if he just wants to talk, nothing else. But again, I think it's very important that in terms of dealing with mental health, that you can be a bridge to the other individual.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I think people have to realize that consistency is kind of, even if somebody doesn't respond, they still feel that power. They still feel that love. They know that this person, that I have a foundation here, that I have a safe space here. That's what I'm always telling people: a safe space is a consistent space. That's how you make a space safe. You got to be consistent. You got to show up. You got to continue to just check in forward. And that has so much more value, even if you're not getting responses. And I think when people realize, it doesn't mean that they're ignoring you or shutting you down or think you're annoying. I think actually it has the opposite effect. Like, they feel safe enough that they don't necessarily have to respond, because they know that you're there. So I applaud you for having the consistency. I applaud you for the safe spaces. I applaud you for your compassion. And going back to what you said a few minutes ago, the understanding that athlete, non-athlete, whatever, we all have the same needs and wants. We all want to feel loved. We all want to be at peace, right? We all want to feel fulfilled, happy. Like, every single human being shares that in common. So I think when we kind of strip it down and get to, like you said, like underneath everything, we're all the same. We all want that love.
Correct. And I do, I love those challenges. I love those moments, because I just want to, just let, even with my own children, you never know when they go back here and they kind of cut themselves off from the rest of the family, for a day or two. I'm like, nope, let's go. We got to get out. You're not going to just be in the room. We got to get you outside. And, and as a parent, it could be.
And that's way different. That's far different from what you and I, how we grew up. We didn't stay in the room like that.
Correct. And we didn't. And they have these devices and they're engaged, and you don't know what's on the other side. These things on the other side can start creating pressures that they can't handle. And so you have to be mindful, and aware of the people you love, and try your best, because at the end of the day, God is in control. But you have to just try your best to lean on them and allow them to know, how much you love them. I try to drop my boys off every day when I'm home and not traveling for work. I want to be the one to drop them off to school. I want to be the one to pick them up from school. And I want to tell them, hey, I love you. Go have a great day. Go be amazing. Do your best. And when I pick them up, how was your day? I love you. And really, that's just the conversation. I want them to know that I love them and that they feel the love. And hopefully that'll just kind of spark something in them to sort of, engage in conversation with me, with whatever they're dealing with. That's all I ever want, just a conversation. And now let's try to do the hard work, which is, try to find help.
How crazy is it, Fred, that when we were that age and we were getting dropped off to school or getting, our parents, they didn't think that way. You know what I mean? Because they didn't think they need, but what you're saying, I do as well. It's because we're in a different time. And I feel like, man, I got to tell my kid every day, I love you. I got to encourage him. I got to ask, how are you doing? Because you are 100% right, Fred. When they get in those dark rooms and they're playing that video game, or they're on the internet, or they're on some platform, you don't know what that influence is doing to their mind.
That's key word.
And you're just fighting that. Every day we're fighting that. And we fight that by saying, hey, I love you. You could talk to me. Keep fighting. We just keep trying to encourage them. But back in the day, our parents didn't really have to do that with us. We were going outside. We were riding bikes. Yeah. We're playing throw up tackle outside with the football. We doing all that.
We were exposed.
Knew we were good.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? It's just a different time.
We were exposed to a tight community.
Yeah.
You venture off 2 blocks over, you're still sort of in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
But here with the internet and all this exposure and not enough regulation a lot of the times to social media. You look at these other countries, they ban this form of social media, or if you're this age, you're not allowed to even entertain in social media. There are ways around things, but at least show us you love our children. At least you wonder why the other countries are leading in education, because they want their kids to have more time interacting in real life than, in this digital world.
Having social skills.
They minimize, the social media. And I think there's some good to social media, but there's also just as much negativity and bad, especially for the younger people in life. So again, that's where it starts. Got to get back to the foundation of things, because you don't want the internet to raise your children. You want to try to do your best as a parent, and that's all you can do, is try to be transparent and try to do your best in hopes that they get it and they don't have this sense of entitlement when they grow up. And then they have to learn little methods themselves as well through communications to be able to deal with what they're going through, and not make, just a rash decision that they will either live with the rest of their lives, or either leave us here with, a lifetime of hurt because we feel like we couldn't be the one to save them. So it's so tough out here, man. But again, trying is the communication piece of it, and being open about it and letting them know that, look, I'm here. I'm always open. and
Right.
checking in, as you mentioned, checking in,
Checking in.
daily. And it's tough though. It's tough. I can't sit here and say it's not. It's really tough. But again, it's always worth trying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, that's your only option, keep trying, keep showing up, and keep opening those doors of communication, right? It's sometimes
Indeed.
sometimes that means more than not, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I have times I'm not going to get into it, but there are times in my life with very close people that we went through periods of kind of not communicating, and every once in a while, you kind of keep that door open, and eventually it opens back up, right?
Right. Correct.
You're able to mend those fences and conversations. So, anyway, so we don't want to take up too much of your time. We want to thank you for being here and everything that you've shared. And I do want to give you an opportunity to tell us about Pivot Performance Energy. I'm super curious about this. I got to hear about this before we close out.
Tell us a little bit about that, Fred.
So basically, I'll just pull up one of our cans here, right? So basically, this is what it looks like. I don't know where I am.
Yeah, there you go.
But
right there.
These are just sample cans. We've actually changed it a bit, but much like any, we didn't just want to be your everyday energy drink. We want to have performance energy where we have certain ingredients in here that's going to also help with your health, right?
Right.
It's zero sugar, no carbs, all that different stuff, no cholesterol, no fat. But we also included a few things in here that's great at recovery. We have stuff in here that's going to help you detox your livers.
Wow.
If beta alanine, for example, milk thistle, a few other things in here. At the moment, from our essential ingredients, we have a lot more than all the other standard energy drinks.
Right.
And I won't throw any names out there, but with Pivot, what we wanted to allow people to understand is it's never too late to pivot. If you're having a bad day, pivot, right?
Right.
If you're underperforming or feeling fatigued, pivot.
Yeah.
So that's our thing. And our mantra, again, is never too late to pivot. It's a pretty good tasting energy drink. And we want it to be transparent. No artificial dyes or any of that stuff in here. And what's on the can is in the can. So
right.
It's pretty good. And
is the show on the Pivot? All you guys own
yes.
the drink? That's awesome.
Yes. So
where can we get this drink when it comes out in May?
It's going to be, we're going to have pivotperformanceenergy.com. If you want to shop, if you like
I
me,
want
like
to shop.
sit in front, like to sit in front of your computer and just hit buttons and things just pop up to your home. That's me, and that'll be on our website. And also it'll be in 7-Eleven. We have some meetings with Walmart here. Wish us luck as we continue to grow in that
awesome,
stage. GNC,
I'm definitely going to support.
Well. So a few gyms. So as we continue to grow, you just follow the Pivot, and we'll let you know all the different various places you can find it. But
I cannot
excited about it.
Wait. So I'm 44. I have a 15-month-old. I'm constantly in the gym, tired, always trying to keep up. I got a long ways to go with raising this kid. I think I need this drink.
You need to pivot. You need to pivot, Miss.
You need to pivot, and it's just getting started. wait until they turn 2 and then 3, and then they're going to go from 3 to 15.
Oh,
yeah,
like overnight.
That's awesome.
Have fun.
You see, I need a cases. I should say. Get me on a subscription model.
We'll also offer a subscription model, but you sitting in front of the plug, so I better take care of it.
Awesome.
Oh my God, I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here. How can people connect with you? If they, for some reason, have been living under a rock and they haven't seen the Pivot, where can they check that out?
It's the Pivot Podcast on YouTube, also Spotify if you prefer, to listen to it while you're walking, maybe driving to work. We also have audio version, Apple Podcasts. You can also find us on social media, Instagram, X, Twitter X, the Pivot Podcast, or even my own individual personal handle, which is just Fred Taylor. We've got some good stuff for you, so check us out.
I think that's an understatement. There's lots of good stuff there. I get stuck in those episodes, man. There's so good.
It's so many.
They're
That's
so
one of
good.
our struggles, trying to decide if we're going to go to one episode a week or stay at two. And that's a tough decision because it is a lot of work.
It's a lot of work trying to
But we
get 2
also
podcasts out
understand
every week.
that we have, like, the people have an appetite for it. We don't want to disrupt the algorithm too much. And that'll kind of take a small hit, at the beginning if we do decide to go to one show. But it's just some inner conversations that we're having, really
Right.
trying to figure it all out. But one thing we won't jeopardize is the quality and the content. We don't care about the views. We care about the message, right? And that'll keep us moving forward regardless.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm certain that's why you're so successful, because it is about that. It's if you guys have been very clear and authentic to your mission from the beginning and those conversations. So
and that thing you said earlier too, consistency.
Consistency.
That is the absolute key. Your people expect you to show up. You got to show up for them.
Yeah.
On time.
Yeah. Agreed.
Well, Fred, I know you got to show up on time for your kids. You got to pick them up from school. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, thank you. We'll let you go. Just want to remind everybody, if you are struggling with mental health, please get that 988 number plugged into your phone, plugged into the loved one's phone, mental health crisis, suicide prevention line. If you are struggling, of course, if you're really in an emergency, there is 911. And we also welcome you to check out the resources tab at kennedykids.org, where we continue to raise awareness of mental health, but also help you provide and find resources for yourself and your loved ones. So, Fred, thank you again for being on the show today.
Thanks, Fred.
Hey, Rob, I got to come to the 5K, man. I like to run.
You got to come to the 5K. We have a Kennedy Kids paint walk on May 3rd. We do a 5K. The 5K is for real runners. The paint walk is for the family. They come out, they bring the kids, the dog, and we walk from the design district into Wynwood and see all the art installations. My daughter was a big artist. And so, we're just trying to bring awareness. So we got to create these events for fundraising and bring awareness to the community.
Well, I'm there for you. Let me know how I can help. And I do want to show up for you. So
I appreciate you, man.
All right, brother.
All love. Love you, brother.
Pleasure.
Have a good one. Thank you.
And Fred.
I made it through the bad time. So now I gotta get